Okay, dear students, we have been continuing with sexual reproduction in flowering plants for class 12, and we have finished the previous week microsporogenesis, which is involving the formation of the microspores which mature into the pollen grains, and each pollen grain carries two male gametes, and the entire process, a lot of terms, a lot of diagrams associated with the same. And of course, we are dealing with the pre-fertilization events, namely gametogenesis or gamete formation. And when we talk of gametes, we are talking of the male and female sex cells or the gametes or the germ cells. And in case of the angiosperms or the flowering plants, we are now focused on the development of the female gamete and the egg cell or the egg cell in the ovary. So for that, we need to go into a lot of background. We all know from our previous knowledge of class 11 that the female reproductive system essentially comprises of the ovary, which is the swollen base, and then there is the elongated style, and the terminal receptor part is called the stigma. This entire structure is called the carpel or the pistil. Now, there are certain flowers in plants which have a single carpel or a pistil, and others have, well, multiple carpels or the female reproductive parts. And of course, I again repeat that each carpel comprises of a receptive top, which is meant for receiving the pollen grains so that the pollen grains germinate. That is called the stigma, right? I marked it on my screen for you. And then there is this stalk-like structure, this elongated thread-like structure called the style, through which the pollen tubes grow. And then ultimately we have the swollen base or the ovary. Of course, and the ovary contains the ovules, and in each ovule we have the egg cell or the female gamete. So this is a hierarchy which should be fit in your mind still now. And of course, we have done a number of conditions that, if there are certain flowers where the entire gynoecium or the female reproductive system is about just one carpel, this is called a monocarpellate flower, or this condition is called monocarpellary. Again, I am repeating. Split the terms in biology. Mono means single or one. Carpellary means carpel or the female reproductive part, also called the gynoecium. Right, so wherever you find this word gyno or gyne, now this is something with respect to the female reproductive system. And of course, when you have the multiple pistils or the multiple carpels or many of them, this becomes the multicarpellate condition, right? So if there are more than two pistils, now the next question is, are they free or are they fused together? If they are free, right, that the ovaries, they are not fused, the ovaries are free, the styles are free, the stigmas are free. Each carpel has their own ovary style and stigma, and they are free from each other. This is called the apocarpus condition. Apo means not fused, free, carpus, so the free carpels. However, in certain species of plants, it is seen that the multiple carpels or pistils are fused, right? So in that case, you may find that either the fusion is at the level of the ovary, or the ovary as well as the style, and then the stigma is representing the total number of ovaries fused, right? So this kind of a condition we have seen in many flowers of our day-to-day life. I'm sure we have all seen hibiscus or shoe flower with its pentacarpellate condition, right? So it is even drawn in your NCERT and textbook. So the syncarpus condition and apocarpus condition, this is something that you must prepare for your NCERT terms. And of course, what is it inside of the ovary? So inside of the ovary or the swollen base, we have the chambers, right? So the locules in which the ovules are present, and all the ovules are present within the ovary, right, along the nutritive tissue, supporting tissue called placenta. So I am sure from class 11 biology, you recall the different kinds of placentations or different ways in which the ovules may be arranged around the placenta in the ovary. So you need to recall the 6 to 7 different main types of placentations like axial, basal, parietal, free central, marginal, discussed. I apologize for the background noise. It's just quarantine time. It's really difficult to control what is on the roads. Okay, so come back to this. And I may want to refresh this that remember, the ovary is the future fruit and the ovules are going to ripen into the seeds, right? So the ovules are positioned along the placenta inside the ovary in chambers or locules. You must remember these basic facts. And just to give you another image, a cross-sectional view. So if you were to split and see how the ovules are arranged, and you can have different kinds of arrangements in different kind of species of plants. Okay. And this is another diagram which will give you a fair enough view to what we are going to lead ourselves next to. So within the ovary, how is the ovule attached to the ovary, right? So you can have a single ovule or multiple ovules. So this condition is also very variable among different plants. And of course, this is the part I want to focus on, that how the ovule is attached to the tissue of the ovary, right? And what are its different parts? So which brings us to the next topic, which is very clearly in your NCERT mentioned as the detailed view of an ovule, right? So this diagram is very essential for all of us to memorize. Parts of the ovule. And now, in other words, can we say that arising from the placenta are the megasporangia or ovules? So because the ovules, within the ovules, we are going to have the development of the megaspore mother cell, and from the megaspore mother cell, the development of the megaspore, and from that one functional megaspore, the development of the complete embryo sac, which will ultimately contain the female gamete or the egg cell and a lot of other specialized cells and nuclei. We can definitely say that you can get a trick question that draw the detailed diagrammatic view of an ovule or the megasporangium in the angiosperm. So you should be clear that the same concept has been asked in two different ways and which diagram is to be drawn. So this is the diagram which is to be drawn, and now we just discuss very quickly the parts of the ovule or the megasporangium. And the megasporangium number or the ovule number can be very variable, right? So this is very important that it may be one, like in the beet grain or the caryopsis, paddy, mango, it is just one. Recall, all of us have eaten mangoes, right? So you slice a mango and there is only one seed inside. So that is the remnant of one ovule developing. Whereas in fruits where you find multiple seeds like papaya, watermelon, orchids, well, of course, this means multiple ovules again. So apples as well. So now we discuss the different parts of the megasporangium. So the ovule is attached to the placenta or the ovary supportive tissue by the means of a stalk, right? This stalk, which attaches the ovule to the placenta and the ovary, is called the funicle, right? And the rise of the funicle, from where the ovule actually rises or begins, right? The body of the ovule is fusing with the stalk-like structure or funicle. This area is called the hilum, right? So what is the hilum and what is the funicle? Two important concepts are covered here. Funicle is the stalk which attaches the ovule or the megasporangium to the placenta, tissue of the ovary. And the funicle is the tissue which attaches the ovule to the funicle. So the hilum is the structure which fuses the funicle with the body of the ovule, right? Now, so this means the ovule or the megasporangium, because it is going to hold the entire process of megasporangium mother cell development, and then from that the functional megaspore, and from the functional megaspore the entire embryo sac, and within the embryo sac you're going to have your female gametophyte. Essentially, we are discussing about the development of the female gametophyte. Now, because this is such a protected structure, there are certain protected layers. So you find two layers meant for protection or coverage of this delicate structure inside. These are called the integuments, right? These protected structures and layers are called the integuments. And there are two integuments, the outer and the inner integument. They are continuous throughout the structure of the megasporangium except for one part, right? So that is the opening. That is the opening of the megasporangium where the integuments or the protective layers are not fused or they are not providing any coverage. And this opening is meant for the entry of the pollen tube carrying the two male gametes. So that is how the pollen tube will gain entry into the megasporangium. And finally it will inside out, a lot of development must have taken place by that time, and you will have the female egg cell develop. We will be discussing those stages in a separate video or a live session on Cisco. So this is the point of entry. Now this point of entry where the integuments are missing, this is called the micropylar end, the micropylar pole of the megasporangium, or the micropyle, simply the micropyle. And opposite to the micropyle, the opposite pole, opposite end of the megasporangium becomes the chalazal pole or the chalaza. So it's quite okay that you can remember it like this. So essentially the opposite pole or the end opposite to the micropyle is the chalaza, and this represents the basal part or the base of the ovule, right? So enclosed within the integuments, inside of the integuments, you see a dense tissue called the nucellus, right? So please, I request you not to confuse nucellus with nucleus ever. Nucleus is a cell organelle, remember. Nucellus is the dense mass of cells, and these cells are carrying a lot of reserve food materials so that this entire process of the female gametophyte development can be supported inside of the megasporangium, right? So, or the ovule. So essentially, the ovule generally has a single embryo sac formed from one megaspore, and we will be talking about the entire megasporogenesis and the development of the megaspore mother cell, and how the megaspore mother cell, undergoes a lot of meiosis, and how that meiotic cycle is at the end a bit different from microsporogenesis. So this is very essential. You should know each and every part of the ovule in the angiosperm or the megasporangium, and you should be clear with it that it can be asked as a 3-mark question, or it can be asked as, for its different supportive parts. And another thing, it is mentioned over here that this is a typical anatropous ovule. So this brings us, the ovules are of very different types. So I'm quickly going to share with you the structure. How are the ovules present? And this is going to be your assignment. So 90% of angiosperms, they have the anatropous kind of an ovule. The kind of ovule, this figure B, drawn in your NCERT textbook, in which the ovule is bent about completely on the opposite side, you can say. And orthotropous, which is this one, it is the upright structure, the upright ovule. Similarly, you have other types, the hemianatropous, ampylotropous, amphitropous, cercinotropous. Now, this is going to be your assignment, which you are going to cover in the comments of the video. You are going to name each ovule, anatropous, give its definition, and one example. Right? Orthotropous, definition, one example. Similarly, so for these So I was just in the process of telling you that in your NCRT we have the anatropous ovule drawn, where the stalk of the ovule is inverted or turned 180 degrees. So there are other 5 cases as well, like the upright one called the orthotropous. So essentially there are the 5 other types. For these you have to mention in the comment thread of the video the name of the flower, at least 2 flower examples with the names, the definition of the ovule, and please prepare them for your NEET seriously. I'll be taking up the concept of development of the megaspore and the female gamete development soon. So in the next class, we'll take that up. Thank you.